Have you know about the alien comet?
The what?
The alien comet. Three
I know there were
I
the
backslash Atlas.
no?
It's
There was
it's
supposed to
co
be some sorta, like, comet shower over the weekend here that was
No,
supposed to
no,
be
no.
crazy,
This
but
comet's very much more interesting. All right, welcome to the Predict It Weekly Markets podcast, where we discuss the news through the lens of Predict It's markets. I'm your co-host, Jacob Studwell. This is Garth Yuckham, a Predict It market expert. And we're just jumping in because there's a lot of news to cover. Let's start light, very, very light. Trump wants to reschedule marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. He also wants to remove taxes from gambling winnings. Which of those do
oh,
you think he's more likely to do?
ooh, that's great. More likely, maybe the gambling taxes. Yeah, but the other one, that could be really good for the midterms in 2028 as well as
Yeah,
a
yeah.
voter initiative.
I will say he's a little late on it. So voters surged in popularity or opinion towards marijuana like basically 4 years ago, probably peaked
At
at
least,
like, yes, it should be legal or
yes.
recreational. And now voters have actually gone the other way and it's more of like a 50-50 issue. So Trump really waited a long time. And I know there was a big push for Biden to decriminalize it. This is two
Mhm.
men who have never taken a sip of alcohol in their lives. So it's kind of tough to like get them on board. Maybe if the world was different when Obama was president, we might have pushed towards something different because I
Maybe,
think Obama has partaken before, allegedly.
allegedly.
But I do think he actually might reschedule marijuana this week. He could just do it
Okay.
by via executive order. Like again, this is Trump's big thing. He takes small little issues that are usually popular on one side heavily and just says, "Let's just do it." Like I don't know why we're waiting, why we're sitting around. He sees his approval rating going down, and he's like, "Let's just fix it at the margins. Let's just kind of fluctuate things and marijuana, sure, make that legal, make all the businesses have a much easier time getting loans from federal banks, yada yada." But I think this will probably be a no story, honestly. Even if he reclassifies marijuana, I don't think it's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not with Obamacare subsidies ending at the end of the year and potential shutdown in at the end of January. There are other bigger fish to fry at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely,
Much bigger
agreed.
fish.
All right, moving on to there was the first high quality poll from Maine that showed Janet Mills leading Graham Plattner. We haven't gotten into the head to head yet, so I think this is a good baseline for where you want to see the race go. But this was Pan Atlantic Research poll from November 29th to December 7th, so very current. We saw Janet Mills at 47% and Graham Plattner at 37%. And then we saw undecideds at 15%. So still a big undecided contingent there. And the prediction markets themselves are at Graham Plattner 58 cents and Janet Mills 42 cents. So it seems like they weren't as convinced. I think that gap between Plattner and Mills did close right after that poll was released. More information we get.
Yeah, it has actually closed quite a bit, at least in this market in the last 7 days. Uh, Planner's down nearly 10 cents, and Mills is up nearly 10 cents. So that's a pretty big swing on one poll in a market like this. Quite significant. The last time they were this close looks like end of November, around November 23rd, middle November. I mean, that's a significant change in a race that seems to have favored Plattner over the last month or plus. But before that, there was quite a bit of interchange between the two candidates and their contracts going back and forth. So yeah, that's kind of definitely moved the needle. This should be one to watch.
I think the good sign in this poll was if you look at they did head to heads between Mills and Collins and Plattner and Collins, and they were both essentially the same. I mean, Mills and Collins was 43-43 with 14% undecided. Plattner and Collins was 43-42 with 15% undecided. really good results for Graham Plattner, who is not widely known necessarily in the state. Janet Mills, former governor, is for obvious reasons. So I think if you're looking for that electability argument to be shut down really quickly, this probably tells you that. So, Graham Plattner's probably going to have a lot of ammo from this poll specifically, and maybe further polls going deeper into this primary contest. But from a
Definitely.
prediction market point of view, I probably am not getting in on either of these prices. Not really loving kind of what I'm seeing in terms of like Graham Plattner 58 cents. I think there will be kind of more of a shakeup, and we might get even closer to 50-50 at some point.
Definitely. This is, I mean, if you look at the previous 2 months in the 90-day chart, I mean, this has got 50-50 written all over it. That's how kind of these markets work a lot of times, is that they'll open up as people start to pay less and less attention, and then they'll close. You'll get a piece of information that you get, either a high quality poll or a news statement that's quite significant, and then they'll just close right back up until we get like enough information in the market to actually say definitively, this should go this way, this should go that way.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the one market that I am interested in, the which party will win the 2026 U.S. Senate election in Maine, the Republican Party is at 42 cents. That is an interesting price for me. You're pretty well below 50-50. I think you only have room to grow there. I don't think it's going to go down too much as we approach
No.
closer to election day. If you look at where Susan Collins was polling at in 2019 and early 2020 against Sarah Gideon, it was close to 50-50. She was actually losing in some polls. She was winning in some polls. It was actually a pretty wild average across the board. So I really like the Republican winning there at 42 cents. And I will start the tease right now, Garth. Garth, we're going to have a competition coming up on the pod. We're both going to have a certain amount of money. We're going to have a portfolio of positions. We'll make all of that public. So I'll tease that now. We're looking to do that in early 2026. So look out for that competition. I'm going up against the prediction market expert savant guru, so we'll see how I fare. But I'm very excited for that. Yeah. One more poll I wanted to shout out. You saw the share of Republicans who consider themselves traditional Republicans versus MAGA Republicans are now equal in an NBC News poll. It's literally 50-50. In April of 2025, when they polled this, it was 57% MAGA, 43% traditional Republicans. So it's now closed completely. What do you think that means for Trump's power in the party, and who's going to, get the lead moving forward?
It's a great question. I mean, you've seen the erosion to a certain degree over the last 3-4 months of Trump's power over the Republican Party, the open revolts, whether it be Marjorie Taylor Greene or where they were on the Epstein files. Outside of the one big beautiful bill that they pushed through, Trump is focusing mostly, and we've mentioned this on the podcast before, he's legacy building, because he can't, his strength and the margins are so thin in the House that it's kind of hard to really push anything major. And so where does he get his success from? He gets his success from either executive orders or trying to solve somebody else's problem outside of our borders, which is interesting because of the whole MAGA thing, right? I mean, that's
America first.
That's really
Yeah.
interesting. America first. And yet he's in very many ways not being America first. So I'm not hugely surprised. They have some recurring issues, the Republicans. You're seeing it play out in the Obamacare ACA subsidies fight. It's like almost like Groundhog's Day, in that, you're having this open fight and you've been fighting about this and hating against this bill since 2010. And yet here's another opportunity, just like they had in 2017, and they might be whiffing on it, and on an issue that it could severely, severely hinder them in 2026.
Yeah, I think America First is probably going to be the number one wedge issue going forward in that party. We see the oil tanker seized off of the coast of Venezuela. It was apparently an oil tanker going from China to Iran, I think it was. Not two people you want to mess with generally. I think if you're America First, you're trying to end wars, getting involved in oil, going from one powerhouse to a hotbed of whatever you want to call Iran, not exactly what you want to see. I think the people that still have their heads on straight in that party saying Venezuela is not the country that produces and brings America the drugs, I think those people are going to start asking very clear questions as to why is it Venezuela? Is it, we understand it could be a regime change they're looking for Maduro to get out, but that's not necessarily where drugs come from traditionally in South America. So America First is going to be the number one wedge issue. And if you start to look at the people who are going to position themselves as more America First than the president and the administration. I wrote a newsletter on Friday, cheap plug here for a pitch that Ted Cruz is at an amazing price at 2 cents. I think he's still at 2 cents here. That is somebody who I will watch for because he is outside the administration. He has been, ardently for American Judeo-Christian values. And that's somebody who's really going to piece together this America First message outside of the administration. So,
right.
Moving forward, I do want to cover the Erica Kirk, Candace Owens, Turning Point USA, post Charlie Kirk assassination scene right now. This is a piece of news that if it's not in your timeline, if you're not clued in, if the algorithms aren't blowing this towards you, you actually might miss it entirely. It finally did go pretty mainstream. Yep, Garth's one of those people. No, that's totally fair, and that's why I wanted to cover it on the pod, because I think it's really important that people understand what's going on in this niche pocket of MAGA, and it's kind of like young Republicans, right? Think of Turning Point USA as like the recruiting agency for the Republican Party. Grassroots, trying to find that 21-year-old that will light a fire under people. They're trying to turn New Jersey red or something like that.
Sure.
Turning Point USA has found lots of young recruits that are very powerful. One of them actually being Candace Owens, who is at the center of this case. So Barry Weiss is now interviewing Erica Kirk on mainstream TV. Let's back up really quickly. So in the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, Candace Owens started to lodge pretty bonkers conspiracy theories towards Turning Point USA and Erica Kirk, essentially accusing them of orchestrating Charlie Kirk's assassination, saying that the assassin himself had nothing to do with this, and he was just a patsy, is like a term for somebody who took the fall, and has not provided any actual evidence at all on record, just kind of saying, I have evidence, and kind of skirting around the question. So this has escalated and boiled up to the point where they were supposed to have a live stream. Candace Owens was supposed to go on a Turning Point USA live stream where they were going to directly confront each other and have a debate over what actually happened in the Charlie Kirk assassination. The Turning Point USA crew was going to give their side. Candace was going to give her side. Erica Kirk tweeted at 5 p.m. late last night, that Candace Owens and Erica Kirk are going to meet for a private in-person discussion today on Monday, December 15th, when the actual live stream was supposed to happen. They've agreed that public discussions, live streams, and tweets are on hold until after this meeting. And Erica said, I look forward to a productive conversation. We're waiting for the news to come out after that private conversation. We don't know what time it's going to happen. It will decide who is at the helm of this Turning Point USA wing of the party. And Erica Kirk is clearly the face of this organization at this point. And I think Candace Owens has been kind of wrestling to be that face as well. So I would just say look out for that news there and how that might affect certain markets across the board, whether it's future cabinet appointees or, again, I think the Republican presidential nominee might be important here. But Just wanted to fill everyone in. Do you have any questions, Garth, now that
Well,
you're all
no,
filled in?
I am familiar with Turning Point USA. It's it's about grassroots, and it's been very, very effective over the last couple of years, and pushing more and more people into the Republican Party. You can see the voter registration numbers changing over the years, favoring the Republicans. Florida is a great example
Yep.
of that, turning it red. So organizations like that are important in kind of tilting the scales to a certain degree, at least giving a bigger voter pool for these politicians to have, and especially with partisanship the way it is or has been for the last couple of years or last decade. These types of organizations are really, really important to driving out the vote and getting people to show up and to win elections. And, what we've seen in the off-year elections so far, the Democrats have the momentum. And, if there's something that Turning Point can do to, solidify itself after Charlie Kirk's death, then that's important for the Republican Party, because the youth movement, even though it can be unreliable when it comes to actually voting, these people do turn into adults and become more reliable voters.
All right, let's move quickly on to a quick shout out to Kristi Noem, who's getting a lot of play on will Kristi Noem be out as DHS secretary by January 31st? I think we'll stop talking about the first cabinet member to leave in 2025. It's now December 15th. And probably not enough time to get in there. She's still sitting at 5 cents in that market. If you want to it is a full gamble. If you want to ride that 5 cents, Garth and I do not suggest it in any way, shape, or form.
No.
But I will say, if you are interested in Kristi Noem leaving office before February 2026, latest yes price is 24 cents. It actually went down 9 cents. I think this is a really good time to get in on this market. You got a lot more time here, and I do expect some kind of a shakeup after year one. I think it would be pretty.
Really?
You don't think there should be any shakeup at all?
Well, that's a different. That's careful with your words there.
I did not mean should. I mean, do you think the president is reassessing his cabinet?
I think Trump 2.0 went out of its way to install the people that it wanted in the positions that it wanted. Okay. And I think they've learned a lot from the first go round, that they are positioned now to, once they've got the people in office, to stay there. Unless, of course, there's a big scandal. And we've seen the scandals in the Defense Department with Hegseth and the Signal Gate, and the boats in the Caribbean, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's still there. So unless there's some serious smoking gun, no pun intended here, there are so many signs that suggest that the people that they put into these positions might be there for quite a while.
Yeah, I think my argument is just pure volatility. Like, how Trump is not a, hire people and let them ride kind of guy. He is a you're fired kind of person. That is literally his catchphrase in the mid, aughts,
But
tens.
who has he fired?
No one this time around.
Right.
You are right. It has been very, very standard. But look, as the president's approval rating declines, he is an approval rating person. He really enjoys to be liked. And when he's not liked, he is going to do anything to scratch and claw himself out of it.
But
Look,
his approval ratings have a ceiling on them, right? And they're gonna drop. They dropped in his first term. I think he fully understands that his window is this big, not this big, and that's okay. Now, I'm not saying that this won't change in 6 months. And the polling says that he's doing this badly, or the prediction markets are saying he's doing this badly, or the Republican Party is doing this badly, and we need to shake up. We need new blood. We need new direction. We need to do this or that, or there's another government shutdown at the end of January. Things can change, but I'm not seeing it right now. There's way too much stability, if you will, in mindset of what Trump 2.0 is doing.
Yeah. What I will say is I can't necessarily tell you that it will be Kristi Noem who's out. I think we're going to get a tweet one day that just says, thank you so much to Scott Bessent, did his job, and we're moving in a different direction. It will be that quick, and I almost think like the breadcrumbs towards Kristi Noem is a red herring. Like Kristi Noem might not be the one to leave, and it's going to be somebody random that you don't expect. I was just talking about, do you know the name of the Secretary of Labor right now? I just looked this person up recently.
I do. Oh man,
it's a fun little test. I think this person has a hyphenated last name. I don't know if that helps you at all.
It's the Democrat, Chavez Romero.
Yes, there we go. Good call. So it might be somebody like that who you've never heard of. You can't bring up their name, but they're already gone. I think it could be something as random as that.
But that one, she's an interesting case too. All that talk about getting her confirmed through the Senate because she's a Democrat. And have you heard her name or seen her name in the mainstream news at all since
once.
been?
Not once.
Which is why I forgot her name.
Right. Right. No, I mean, of course. I
mean, and her name wasn't even brought up with the the visas.
Right. Something that's fully relevant to her actual job.
That was completely all Trump.
I mean, what a cushy job. It's basically like she's an ambassador to like the Bahamas or something. Shout out Herschel Walker, by the way, who just got signed into the Bahamas, handing over his papers. Herschel looks like he's having a ball right now in the Bahamas. Good for him.
Wouldn't you?
That's the job I want. I don't want like the Woody Johnson ambassador to England. Like that's fine, but that's
too much work.
Way too much work. And it's rainy and cold. Send me to the Bahamas. Send me to French Polynesia. I don't know if they have their own, but whatever. Send me to somewhere that, I'm enjoying myself and don't think there's going to be too much work on the plate of Herschel Walker.
Right.
It really is like a retirement. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but with all that to be seen, our main story that I do want to get to today is the Texas Senate race. I think there's so much happening on both sides of this This is the most interesting primary race, both on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. So we talked about Jasmine Crockett, who announced running for a Democratic nominee for Senate in Texas last week. Colin Allred, who was previously running, dropped out to clear the way for this race between James Tallarico and Jasmine Crockett. So right now, who will win the 2026 Texas Democratic Senate nomination? James Tallarico is at 62 cents. Jasmine Crockett is at 36 cents. That's had a lot of movement recently. I did see Crockett at much higher previously. They were tied as recently as like December 7th, they kind of crossed paths. Tallarico was at like 39 cents. Crockett was at 43 cents. I think most of the movement was the rumor that the NRC, I think it's called, National Republican Senate Committee, yes, thank you, NRSC, basically said that they created this AstroTurf campaign. We were talking a lot about grassroots. This is the opposite of grassroots. This is fake grass, because they planted this turf to say, oh, everyone really wants you to get into the race, Jasmine Crockett. There's lots of, people calling you and telling you to run. And what actually is going on is that the Republicans are looking to face off against a candidate like Jasmine Crockett in the Texas Senate race in the actual general election. That's probably why Tallarico started to take off and Crockett kind of fell. I don't think that's a good enough reason for her to fall. So I do think Jasmine Crockett at 36 cents is an interesting play here. This is not necessarily going to be heated of a competition. I think it's just an ideological difference between the two.
Yes. And I think you just hit the nail on the head right there. That's I actually think that's what's spurring Tallarico's price increase since Crockett leveled out at 47 cents on the 8th. He also jumped on the 8th. He went from 39 cents to 54 cents. This is the more data that we have from these off-year elections from November. This is the ideological difference. Are you going to pick Tallarico, who is the guy who is more like Abigail Spanberger out of Virginia, more middle of the road?
Right. And by the way, he's a Texas version of Abigail Spanberger, because he is a minister. He speaks in Bible verses, so he knows what his constituency is in Texas.
Sounds like a good pick to me, as opposed to the slightly more controversial Jasmine Crockett. and her past statements about a certain governor in her home state.
Now here's the difference, though, is that I think in New Jersey, or if you're in Virginia, I don't know if this is true. This is one of those things. I don't know if it's true, but I'm pretty sure it is. There's more of a pliable middle. There might be more independents who are willing to say, I'll vote for a Republican, I'll vote for a Democrat. I'm going to see where the chips fall, who says the right things, who's talking about my issues. In Texas, I don't know if that's entirely the same ball field. How many actual independents are willing to vote for a Democrat versus a Republican? So that's James Tallarico's strategy, is to say, I want to win the middle. I want to win independents. I want to try to get somebody who voted for Donald Trump in 2024 to vote for me for Senate. Jasmine Crockett is the exact opposite. She is looking for people who have never voted before to vote for Jasmine Crockett in 2026. It's, again, stark ideological contrast. I think if Jasmine Crockett rises in price, if she's more likely to be that nominee on the Democratic side, there's probably more volatility. So she could either lose in a big blow up in the Senate, way worse than Beto ever. Yeah. But I also think she's probably more likely to win. You just have a wider band of probabilities with Jasmine Crockett. She's very interesting. She calls the governor of Texas Governor Hot Wheels. I mean, that is just as Trumpian as it gets. I've never heard a Democrat do something like that. So she's interesting.
It does, but at the end of the day, I think it comes down to these pocketbook issues, and how can she take the playbook that we've just seen work so successfully, and obviously different places, different states, different needs, but very to the heart of the family, and the ability to put food on your table. Can she make that message resonate and be central to her campaign, right? I mean, obviously we're talking about a Democratic primary here, but that's the stepping stone, right? We've seen what the playbook looks like. How will it evolve in it's a March 3rd primary. How will that then evolve running into November of next year? And who will be the better candidate to face either Ken Paxton or Cornyn.
Or Wesley Hunt, by the way. So that's a three-way race. It's a good segue. That's a three-way race. They also same, March 3rd date. But the interesting part about that race, because it's a three-way race, is if the person does not get more than 50%, we actually have a runoff in May. So that runoff will take place in May, whereas the Jasmine Crockett James Tallarico race will probably have been decided because it's only a two-way race. They will probably be able to get to that 50% threshold. So there will be about 2 months when the Republicans are fighting each other in a primary. Yeah, I mean, Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, John Cornyn's been in the Senate forever at this point, and Ken Paxton is your Trumpian candidate there. I think Wesley Hunt is going to be that Curtis Sliwa kind of take slugs at who's ever in front of him kind of guy. So I think it will be a super interesting race. And I do think the Democrats have a better shot at making headway in those first few months because their race will be over. The Republicans are still fighting amongst themselves, and you can kind of spend as much money as you want in those 2 months time. So look out for that money to flow to that Texas Senate race like it always does.
But not even that money in that 2 months, but how much money will they have to spend to win the primary in those 2 months on the Republican side, and what kind of deficit they might have to have, and who will have to help from outside, and how does that impact any of the other races that are connected?
Totally. And I can almost guarantee you that Tallarico and Crockett will campaign for each other once one of them actually wins that primary race. And that is not what's going to happen in the Ken Paxton, John Cornyn, Wesley Hunt race. That is just, it is not that type of a race. So, look, that is just my number one primary to look for in 2026. Come 2026, in the first episode of the first couple episodes, we're going to go over the schedule and we're going to review kind of what we have in store. Again, those first primaries are on that March 3rd date that Texas is on, but we have a packed slate for 2026. It is starting to heat up right now. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Predict It Weekly Markets Podcast on Spotify. You can find us anywhere, but Look, things are going to be heating up, Garth. Are you excited for politics in 2026?
I'm very excited, and I'm also very excited for taking a break, because I think we're going to need it.
That's very true. Very true. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Happy holidays. We'll catch y'all next week, but thanks for hanging with us. I've been your host, Jacob Studwell. That's Garth Yuckham. Thanks, everyone.